Sure, Linux is a highly secure operating system, but as it's gaining popularity, it's also upping the growth of Linux-specific malware. Hello, cat. So today, let's talk about the best antivirus for Linux options. Despite the loud claims that Linux is somehow untouchable, that's not really the truth. Linux is what powers most of today's cloud and enterprise servers, so it automatically becomes a primary target for malware. These systems usually get hit with advanced threats like ransomware, botnet, or cryptojacking, and somehow, most organizations still assume that Linux is the synonym for security, which leads to malicious hackers getting a lot more headroom for attacks, whether it's due to delayed updates or just negligence to figure out a proper way to secure those systems. While you could somewhat argue that malware which targets the servers will not hit desktops, well, it actually can. The only differences are that a desktop has a graphical user interface and more apps instead of more services, so it can totally get attacked with the same types of malware. Is this still rare? Yes. But it can and does happen, usually if you're not careful enough. Another issue that just sprung up in recent years is Steam OS. Don't get me wrong, I love the thing, but devices like the Steam Deck or the Steam Machine use Linux as a base, further making this operating system just more and more popular. So even more hackers turn their gazes towards it. Further complicating this whole mess is the fact that the antivirus market for Linux is very narrow. And it makes sense. Linux has many different versions, from Ubuntu to Fedora to aforementioned SteamOS. Not to mention all of the custom versions people make. It would be really difficult and really expensive to develop an antivirus that can cover every Linux iteration. But there is a rising need for it, so there are some solutions. All current antiviruses offer a much more comfortable use on Windows or Mac devices, but it is not impossible to run them on Linux. The only caveat is the antivirus options that can do this are only available through business plans, like Bitdefender. It's a renowned option for Windows and Mac, but the only Linux solution it offers is called Bitdefender Endpoint Security Tools for Linux, which is within their business-focused CoolTechZone product line. And sadly, there's no news or plans to develop antivirus software for Linux home users. But the endpoint security tools work really well. I ran a test with each of the free antivirus for Linux options I'll present today. While all three showed pretty impressive results, Bitdefender got the highest result, with the full scan catching 81 malicious files out of the 100 samples that I planted. The only drawback was a pretty significant spike in terms of CPU usage, but the scan ended in just 5 minutes. Of course, Bitdefender on Linux is capable of more than just catching malware samples. The security program can block abnormal encryption attempts, which will come from ransomware attacks. It also creates backup copies of your files so that you can restore them if necessary. This version of Bitdefender works on hybrid environments, so it also includes protection for Windows or Mac OS workstations. And there's a cloud console that allows central management so that the administration wouldn't be a headache. Another strong option is ESET Endpoint Antivirus. In my test, it caught 70 threats in under 5 minutes with the average CPU usage of just 10 to 30%. Overall, ESET is really impressive in how little resources it takes. Its background services only switch on when they're actually needed, and that's how it keeps the CPU and memory use so low. You'll only see a notification if ESET removes a threat, otherwise it won't ever interrupt you. ESET includes both a simple GUI and a command line interface, so you can start scans or check basic product info if you want. It's also pretty cool that the researchers of this antivirus were the ones to expose 21 Linux-based malware families, 12 of which were completely new at that time. It just shows that not only are Linux threats growing, but ESET actually cares about what they're doing. But I have one more strong recommendation: Sophos Antivirus for Linux. In my testing, it found 68 malicious files, but while the CPU was never maxed out, it reached about 80%, which is pretty high. That said, the scan lasted only about 5 minutes, so it's not a huge deal. Overall, Sophos has a huge proprietary malware database, so it's able to detect even the newest strains of malware. I'd say that this antivirus focuses heavily on how users interact with apps and what actions they take on your network. And if Sophos Intercept X spots any unusual behavior, it immediately flags it as a threat. The only drawback is that it doesn't provide access to a firewall on Linux, but since all Linux distros have integrated firewalls, just check whether it's enabled. Right now, the options for Linux operating system protection are pretty limited. Either you run a business plan antivirus or just be very, very careful online. I'm hoping that with the increase of Linux threats, antivirus providers will start to consider Linux virus protection for at-home users as well. For now at least, we do have solid antivirus products for Windows and Mac. You can check those out in the description down below if you need any solid recommendations. Anyway, I'll keep you updated if anything Linux antivirus related pops up, so just don't forget to drop a like and click that subscribe button.